What if I told you the weirdest winter of 2025 is coming, and your grocery store might not save you? Power outages, price spikes, empty shelves. But the Amish, they've been laughing through blizzards for 300, and today, I'm giving you their 30 old-school cooking secrets. Zero electricity required. Hey friends, welcome back! If you're worried about feeding your family this winter without blowing your budget or your sanity, you're in the right place. The Amish don't just survive harsh winters, they thrive. No fancy gadgets, no DoorDash, just smart, simple, delicious food wisdom passed down for generations. And with supply chains looking shaky and heating bills going wild, these 30 secrets aren't just nostalgic, they're your secret weapon for winter. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to eat well, spend less, and maybe even impress your neighbors with a pie crust made from lard. Don't knock it till you try it. 1. Dried beans are their gold. Dried beans are the Amish kitchen's secret treasure. Black beans, navy beans, pinto, any kind you like. They skip the overpriced cans and buy beans in big sacks instead. It costs pennies per serving. At home, they pour them into clean glass jars with tight lids. No fancy packaging needed. Stored in a cool, dark pantry, these beans stay fresh for years. When winter hits and trips to town get tough, they've got meals ready to go. Just soak a handful overnight, simmer with onions and a ham bone, and boom, comfort in a bowl. No electricity, no problem. A wood stove or even a slow cooker on low does the trick. Beans stretch further than you think. Toss them in soups, mash them for burritos, or bake them with molasses for Sunday supper. Cheap, filling, and packed with protein, no wonder the Amish call them gold. Whole grains, not flour. The Amish don't buy flour off the shelf, they buy whole wheat berries instead. Why? Freshly ground flour tastes better, lasts longer, and keeps all its nutrients. They store those hard little grains in big food-grade buckets or glass jars, safe from bugs and moisture. When they need flour, they grind just enough for that day's bread or biscuits using a hand crank or simple electric mill. No preservatives, no mystery ingredients, just pure, earthy grain. And here's the kicker, whole wheat berries cost way less per pound than pre-ground flour, and they'll stay good for decades if stored right. In a weird winter like 2025, when supply chains wobble and shelves go bare, having a stash of grains means you'll never run out of bread. Plus, there's something deeply satisfying about turning a handful of seeds into warm, crusty loaves with your own two hands. 3. Lard isn't gross, it's genius. Forget what you've heard. Lard is a kitchen superhero in Amish homes. They render it themselves from pasture-raised pigs, turning fat into liquid gold that's clean, neutral tasting, and incredibly versatile. They use it to fry chicken until it's crispy, bake pie crusts, so flaky they melt on your tongue, and even spread it on toast like butter. Best part, it doesn't need refrigeration and can last for years in a cool pantry. Unlike vegetable oils that go rancid, lard stays stable and ready. It's also cheaper than butter and often healthier than processed shortening. In a winter where every dollar counts and power outages are common, lard is a no-fuss, high-reward staple. And honestly, once you taste a biscuit made with real lard, you might never go back. Apple cider vinegar, way more than a salad dressing. In an Amish kitchen, apple cider vinegar isn't just for salads, it's a multitasking miracle. They keep a big jug on hand for everything from pickling cucumbers to tenderizing tough cuts of meat. A splash in bean soup cuts the gas, and a spoonful in warm water is their go-to for soothing sore throats or settling an upset stomach. They even use it to clean countertops and preserve fresh eggs without refrigeration. Just submerge them in vinegar water. Made from fermented apples, it's cheap, shelf-stable, and packed with natural goodness. No fancy supplements needed, just a bottle of raw, unfiltered vinegar with the mother still in it. During long, weird winters when fresh produce is scarce, it adds brightness to meals and keeps food safe longer. Simple, old school, and seriously powerful. 5. Salt isn't just for flavor, it's a preserver. To the Amish, salt is more than a seasoning, it's a lifeline. They use it to dry cure hams, bacon and even fish, rubbing generous layers onto meat and letting time do the rest. This old-school method pulls out moisture, blocks bacteria, and locks in flavor. No fridge required. They also layer root vegetables like cabbage and turnips in salt-filled crocks to ferment or store through deep winter. And when blizzards roll in, that salt-cured ham hock becomes the soul of a hearty bean pie. Unlike modern preservatives you can't pronounce, salt is simple, cheap, and has worked for centuries. A 25-pound bag costs less than $10 and can preserve weeks' worth of food. In a winter as unpredictable as 2025, knowing how to use salt like the Amish do means your pantry stays full, even when the roads are empty. 6. Molasses over sugar. When the Amish sweeten their food, they reach for molasses, not refined sugar. It's cheaper, richer, and packed with iron, calcium, and that deep, warm flavor you just can't fake. They stir it into baked beans for that classic sweet-savory balance, swirl it into gingerbread, or mix it with butter for a simple cookie glaze. Unlike white sugar that spikes and crashes, molasses gives slow, steady energy perfect for long winter days, and it never hardens or crystallizes in the cold, so it pours smoothly even in an unheated pantry. A single gallon lasts months and costs a fraction of specialty sweeteners. Plus, it's a byproduct of sugarcane refining, so it's a thrifty way to use what others discard. In a weird, expensive winter like 2025, swapping sugar for molasses isn't just smart, it's deliciously practical. 7. Root cellars are their secret weapon. When snow piles high and temperatures drop, the Amish don't panic. They head to the root cellar, dug into the earth or built into a hillside. These cool, dark spaces stay between 32 bm and 40 bm and 40 bm and fall winter long. No electricity needed. Inside, they store bushels of potatoes, carrots, beets, apples, and cabbages on wooden shelves, layered with straw or sawdust to keep them fresh for months. The steady humidity stops veggies from shriveling, and the natural chill slows spoilage. It's like a walk-in fridge powered by Mother Nature. Even in the coldest weeks of 2025, they've got crisp produce on hand for soups, stews, and Sunday roasts. No trips to the store, no $4 per pound carrots, just quiet, reliable abundance right under their feet. For anyone worried about food shortages this winter, a root cellar or even a cool basement corner might be the smartest upgrade you'll ever make. Ferment in crock, not fridge. The Amish don't need a refrigerator to keep their veggies alive. They use big ceramic crocks instead. Cabbage becomes tangy sauerkraut. Cucumbers turn into crisp, probiotic-rich pickles. Even green beans, carrots, and peppers get the fermentation treatment. They pack the vegetables tight with salt and water, sometimes adding garlic or dill, weigh them down with a clean stone or plate, and let nature do the rest. Over days or weeks, good bacteria take over, preserving the food and boosting gut health. These crocks sit quietly in a cool pantry or cellar, bubbling away with zero power. No canning, no pressure cookers, just simple, safe, shelf-stable food. And because it's alive with enzymes, it digests easier and tastes brighter than vinegar-pickled store version. In a winter where fresh food is scarce and immunity matters, a crock of homemade kraut might be worth more than gold. 9. Sun-dry herbs and tomatoes. The Amish don't let a little cold stop them from drying food. They use every bit of winter sun they can find. On clear days, even in January, they spread thyme, oregano, or sage on clean screens and set them in a south-facing window. The weak winter light is still strong enough to slowly pull out moisture without cooking the herb. For tomatoes, they slice plum or Roma types thin, sprinkle a pinch of salt, and place them on racks in a dry attic or near a wood stove. No fancy dehydrator needed. The key is low humidity and steady airflow, so they crack a window or leave a fan running gently if the air feels damp. Dried herbs go into glass jars for soups and stews all winter long. Sun-dried tomatoes get packed in oil or stored dry, ready to add deep, sweet flavor to bean dishes or bread. It's slow food in the truest sense. No electricity, no noise, just patience and sunshine. And because they dry only what they'll use, nothing goes to waste. Even on short grey days, they trust the process. A few hours here, a few there, and soon their pantry shelves are lined with summer's flavor, saved for the coldest nights of vinegar pickling, no canning required. The Amish know you don't need a boiling water bath to enjoy crisp pickles all winter. Their trick: quick vinegar pickling in simple glass jars. They slice cucumbers, onions, or even green beans, pack them tight, then pour in a hot mix of apple cider vinegar, water, salt, and spices like mustard seed or dill. Seal the jar, let it cool, and store it in a cool pantry, not the fridge. The acid in the vinegar keeps everything safe and tangy for months. No pressure canners, no special lids, just clean jars and good vinegar. It's faster than traditional canning and perfect for small batches. Got a few extra veggies before a freeze? Pickle them tonight. This method also works great with beets, carrots, or even hard-boiled eggs for a protein-packed snack. And because it's done cold after the brine cools, the veggies stay crunchy, not mushy. In a weird winter like 20, trip to the store feels risky. Having a shelf of bright, zesty pickles means you've always got flavor and vitamins on hand. 11. Cold smoking, not hot. The Amish preserve meat in a way most of us have forgotten. Cold smoking. Unlike hot smoking, which cooks food, cold smoking keeps temperatures below 100 BPF, often between 60 BPF and 90 BPF. This slow process infuses bacon, ham, or fish with deep, woodsy flavor, while drawing out moisture to prevent spoilage. They build simple smokehouses, or use metal drums, with a pipe running from a distant fire, so only cool smoke enters the chamber. Hickory, applewood, or cherrywood chips create the perfect aroma. The meat hangs for hours or even days, never cooking, just curing. The result: smoky, shelf-stable protein that lasts for weeks without refrigeration. Ideal for deep winter, when power flickers or trips to town are impossible. They often combine cold smoking with salt curing for extra safety. It's not just about taste, it's about resilience, and you don't need a fancy setup. A modified cooler or even a cardboard box with careful airflow can work in a pinch. In 2025's uncertain winter, knowing how to safely preserve meat without electricity could mean the difference between feast and famine. Plus, there's something deeply satisfying about slicing into a piece of bacon you smoked yourself, rich, fragrant, and made to last. 12. Layered storage. The Amish don't just toss food into the root cellar and hope for the best. They store it with serious strategy. They know that some fruits and veggies release ethylene gas as they ripen, which can make nearby produce spoil faster. So they keep apples, a big ethylene producer, on a high shelf, far from potatoes and carrots that are sensitive to it. Onions and garlic go in mesh bags near the ceiling, where it's dry and airy, while potatoes and beets stay low in bins lined with straw to block light and retain moisture. Cabbages hang upside down by their stems or sit on slatted shelves, so air circulates all around. They never store strong-smelling items like turnips next to delicate ones, like pears. Even the order matters. Older harvests go in front, so they're used first. This layered system isn't fancy, but it's incredibly effective. With the right placement, a single harvest can feed a family from November through March. No labels, no apps, just generations of observation and common sense. In a winter as unpredictable as 2025, smart storage means fewer trips to the store, less waste, and more meals made from your own pantry. It's not about having more food, it's about making every bite last. 13. Dutch oven, a winter MVP. In an Amish kitchen, the Dutch oven is the undisputed champion of winter cooking. Heavy, lidded, and built to last generations, it works on a wood stove, over an open fire, or even buried in hot coals. They use it for everything: simmering thick bean soup, baking crusty no-knead bread, roasting a chicken with root vegetables, or stewing tough cuts of meat until they fall apart. The thick cast iron holds heat evenly, so food cooks slowly and deeply. No hot spots, no burning. One pot means fewer dishes, less fuel and more flavor as ingredients meld together over hours. On freezing mornings, they might toss in leftover potatoes, onions, and a bit of ham, cover it, and let it warm the kitchen while they tend to chores. By lunch, it's a hearty meal with zero extra effort. They season it with lard, never soap it harshly, and pass it down like heirloom treasure. You don't need 10 gadgets when you've got one Dutch oven. In a weird winter like 2025, when power might flicker and groceries feel uncertain, this single pot can keep your family fed, warm, and satisfied. Simple, sturdy, and endlessly versatile. It's not just cookware, it's peace of mind. 14. Beanhole cooking. Long before slow cookers, the Amish mastered beanhole cooking, a clever hands-off method perfect for deep winter. They dig a shallow pit in the ground, line it with stones, and build a small fire on top. Once the stones are glowing hot, they rake out the coals, place a heavy pot of seasoned beans, often with molasses, salt pork, and onions, into the hole, cover it with more hot coals, then seal everything with dirt or a metal lid. The beans cook slowly for 8 to 12 hours in this natural earth oven, absorbing smoky flavor and turning creamy without stirring. No electricity, no watching the stove, just set it and forget it while you chop wood or mend fence. By dinner time, the pot emerges steaming hot, full of rich, comforting beans that feed a whole family, and often neighbors too. This method works just as well for stews, cornbread, or even whole chickens. It's efficient, fuel-smart, and keeps heat contained outdoors, so the house doesn't overheat. In a winter as strange and challenging as 2025, knowing how to cook a full meal with nothing but fire, earth, and time is more than tradition. It's true self-reliance, and honestly, those beans taste like patience, love, and a little bit of magic. 15. Seasoned cast iron, with lard, not oil. The Amish don't just cook with cast iron. They care for it like family heirloom, and lard is their secret to a perfect, non-stick surface. After washing their skillet with hot water, never soap, they warm it gently on the stove, then rub a thin layer of rendered lard all over, inside, outside, even the handle. The pan goes back on low heat for 10 minutes, so the lard bonds with the metal, then cools completely. This creates a slick, dark patina that gets better with every use. Unlike vegetable oils that can leave a sticky or uneven coating, lard polymerizes cleanly and resists flaking. It's also stable at high heat and won't go rancid sitting in a cool pantry. Over time, their skillets become naturally non-stick, perfect for frying eggs, searing meat, or baking cornbread with a golden crust. They never soak cast iron or put it in the dishwasher, just wipe, dry, and re-lard if it looks dull. A well-seasoned pan can last 100 years and be passed down through generations in a winter like 2025 when reliability matters more than convenience. A lard-seasoned cast iron skillet isn't just cookware, it's a trusted partner that works on wood stoves, campfires, or propane burners with zero fuss. Ash-baked bread. The Amish turn even fireplace ashes into a baking tool. After a wood fire burns down to warm embers, they rake aside the hot coals and smooth out a bed of clean, fine ashes. They shape simple bread dough, often just flour, water, salt, and sourdough starter into a round loaf, sometimes wrapping it in cabbage or collard greens to keep ash off the crust. Then they nestle it right into the warm ashes, cover it with more embers, and let it bake slowly for 30 to 45 minutes. The result? A rustic, smoky loaf with a thick, crackly crust and tender crumb inside. No oven needed, no electricity, just fire, earth, and time. They brush off the ash, which doesn't stick to the damp dough or leaf wrap, and slice into bread that tastes like resilience and hearth. This method works for flatbreads, biscuits, or even small loaves of rye. It's especially useful during blizzards when stoves are busy heating the house or power is out. The ashes hold steady, gentle heat, perfect for even baking without burning. In a weird winter like 2025, when every resource counts, knowing how to bake bread in ashes means your family never goes without fresh, warm food. It's humble, ancient, and deeply satisfying, one loaf at a time. Sick broth is never done. In an Amish kitchen, broth isn't a one-time batch, it's a living, ever-changing pot that simmers quietly for weeks. They start with bones from Sunday roast or soup chickens, cover them with water, and add onion peels, carrot tops, celery ends, anything edible that would otherwise be tossed. After the first boil, they strain out the soft bits, but keep the liquid. Then every few days they top it off with fresh water, toss in new scraps, and let it gently bubble again. Each addition deepens the flavor and boosts nutrition. They never let it boil hard, just a lazy simmer on the back of the wood stove. When it's time for soup, they ladle out what they need, season it simply, and return the rest to its slow rhythm. This perpetual broth saves money, cuts waste, and ensures a rich base for stews, gravies, or sipping on cold morning. They store it safely by keeping it hot or cooling small portions quickly in winter's chill. No fancy stock pots or freezer space required, just a covered kettle, a watchful eye, and respect for every scrap. In a winter as uncertain as 2025, this old habit turns kitchen trash into liquid gold. Warm, healing, and always ready when hunger strikes. 18. Kitchen sink soup night. Every week, the Amish have a built-in reset button. Kitchen sink soup night. Usually on Wednesdays or whenever the pantry feels light, they pull out every leftover bit, stale bread ends, wilting greens, half-used jars of beans, leftover potatoes, odd bits of meat, even yesterday's rice, and toss it all into a big pot of simmering broth. There's no recipe, just common sense and a little salt. They stir, taste, maybe add a splash of vinegar or a pinch of dried herbs, and let it meld into something surprisingly delicious. It's never the same twice, but it's always filling, frugal, and deeply satisfying. This habit clears the fridge, stretches ingredients, and teaches kids that food isn't waste until it's truly gone. They serve it with cornbread or crackers, and no one complains because it's warm, honest, and made with care. In a weird winter like 2025, when grocery runs are risky and budgets are tight, this one-pot wonder becomes a lifeline. It's not about perfection, it's about making do with what you have and turning scraps into sustenance. And honestly, some of their best meals start as nothing until it all comes together in that steaming pot. 19. Lard pie crusts, melting crust. Your mouth? Amish grandmothers swear by one secret for the flackiest, most tender pie crust. Lard. Not butter, not shortening. Real rendered lard from pasture-raised hogs. They keep it chilled, cut it into flour with a fork or their fingertips. Add just enough ice water to bind, and roll it out with a light touch. The result? A crust that shatters delicately with every bite, bakes up golden without shrinking, and holds its shape even with juicy fillings like apple or cherry. Lard's high fat content and low water content mean fewer gluten strands form, so no tough pastry. Plus, it's naturally dairy-free, making it perfect for households that avoid butter. They use it for sweet pies, meat pies, and even fried hand pies stuffed with jam. And because lard stays solid at room temperature, it's easy to work with even in a warm kitchen. In winter, when store-bought crusts cost a fortune and often disappoint, a homemade lard crust feels like a gift. It's cheap, often under 50 cents per crust, shelf-stable, and deeply traditional. For the Amish, it's not old-fashioned, it's simply the best. And once you taste a slice of warm pumpkin pie with a lard crust, you'll understand why this humble fat has stood the test of time. 20. Sourdough discard, pancakes, crackers, even pizza dough. The Amish hate waste, and that includes sourdough starter discard. While many toss the extra when feeding their starter, they put it to work in clever ways. A cup of discard becomes fluffy pancakes with just an egg and a splash of milk. Mixed with herbs and rolled thin, it turns into crisp, tangy crackers baked in minutes. Need pizza night? Stir in a little flour and oil, let it rest, and you've got a rustic no-yeast dough ready to top. They even use it in waffles, muffins, or as a binder for meatloaf. The mild acidity tenderizes and adds depth without overpowering. Best of all, it requires no extra ingredients, just what's already in the jar. They keep their starter on the counter in winter. The cool house slows fermentation, feeding it once a week with rye or whole wheat flour. Every spoonful of discard saved is a meal stretched further. In a weird winter like 2025, when flour and eggs cost more and trips to town are fewer, sourdough discard becomes a quiet kitchen hero, turning leftovers into breakfast, snacks, or dinner with zero extra cost. It's not about being fancy, it's about using every bit wisely. And honestly, those discard crackers disappear faster than store-bought ones, every time. 21. Molasses cookies, with a pinch of ginger. On cold afternoons, the smell of molasses cookies baking is pure Amish comfort. They keep the recipe simple: dark molasses, a bit of sugar, lard or butter, an egg, flour, baking soda, and just a pinch of ginger and cinnamon. No fancy mix-ins, just warm, chewy cookies with a crackly top and deep, earthy sweetness. They roll the dough into balls, Dip them in sugar for sparkle, and bake until the edges are set but the centers stay soft. The molasses adds moisture, so the cookies stay tender for days in a tin. And because molasses is cheaper than refined sugar and packed with iron, it's a smart swap for winter nutrition. Kids help mix the dough and the whole house fills with that cozy spiced aroma that says home. These cookies travel well in lunch pails, pair perfectly with hot tea, and even improve by day 2. In a winter like 2025, when store-bought treats cost a fortune and ingredients feel precious, this humble cookie proves you don't need much to make something special. Just a bowl, a spoon and a few pantry staples turn into a batch of warmth you can hold in your hand. And honestly, one bite brings back memories you didn't even know you had. Dried fruit compote. When fresh fruit disappears in winter, the Amish turn to dried apples, peaches, or pears stored from summer harvests. They don't just eat them as snacks, they simmer them into a simple soul-warming compote. Tossed in a pot with water, a cinnamon stick, maybe a splash of lemon juice or a spoonful of molasses, the dried fruit plumps up in 15 to 20 minutes. No sugar needed, the fruit's natural sweetness blooms with. They serve it warm over oatmeal, stir it into yogurt, or eat it plain in a bowl like a rustic dessert. Leftovers keep for days in a jar and taste even better the next morning. It's a quiet luxury that costs almost nothing, a handful of dried slices, a bit of water and time. They dry their own fruit using attic sun or low oven heat, so it's free from sulfites and preservatives. In a weird winter like 2025, when fresh berries cost $8 a pint and citrus feels like a splurge, this compote brings back summer's sweetness without the price tag. It's gentle on the stomach, full of fiber and deeply satisfying, plus the smell while it simmers, like a hug from your great-grandma. No fancy tools, no recipe stress, just fruit, patience, and a little warmth to carry you through the coldest days. 23. Eggless cakes. The Amish know you don't need eggs to bake a moist, delicious cake, especially when hens slow down in winter. Their trick? A simple swap: vinegar and baking soda. Just 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar mixed with a teaspoon of baking soda creates a gentle fizz that lifts the batter, giving cakes the same soft crumb you'd get with eggs. They use it in chocolate cake where the vinegar deepens the cocoa flavor, spice cake, or even yellow cake with a splash of vanilla. The acid also helps tenderize the flour, so the cake stays light, not dense. They've been doing this for generations, not out of trend, but necessity, and it works every time. No one can tell the difference, especially when it's topped with a dusting of powdered sugar or a spoonful of fruit compote. In a weird winter like 2025, when eggs cost $6 a dozen, or your own hens aren't laying, this old-school hack keeps dessert on the table without stress or extra cost. It's pantry baking at its smartest: flour, sugar, fat, vinegar, and a little faith. And honestly, their eggless chocolate cake is so rich and fudgy, guests always ask for the recipe, never guessing it's missing the essential ingredient. 24. Homemade vanilla. The Amish skip the $20 bottle of vanilla extract and make their own. Slow, simple, and far richer. They split real vanilla beans lengthwise, tuck them into a clean glass jar, and cover them with plain vodka, apple cider, or even food-grade glycerin for an alcohol-free version. Then they seal it tight and tuck it in a cool, dark cupboard. Every few days they give it a gentle shake. In about 8 weeks the liquid turns deep amber and smells like pure, warm vanilla, stronger and more complex than anything from the store. One bean can flavor multiple batches. They just top off the jar with more liquid. They use it in cakes, cookies, oatmeal, even hot milk before bed. It costs pennies per ounce compared to commercial brands, and there are no artificial additives. In a weird winter like 2025, when pantry staples spike in price and natural labels hide sketchy ingredients, this small jar becomes a quiet act of self-reliance. Plus, it makes a heartfelt gift tied with twine. No fancy equipment, no rush, just time, a few beans, and patience. And when you stir a spoonful into your molasses cookie dough, you'll taste the difference: real, slow, and made with care. Food sharing networks. In Amish communities, no one eats well while their neighbor goes hungry. It's just not how they live. They've built quiet, powerful food sharing networks that kick in without being asked. When a family butchers a hog, they send over ribs or sausage. When someone's garden overflows with zucchini, jars of pickles appear on doorsteps. After a blizzard, a pot of soup might show up wrapped in a towel. There's no app, no sign-up sheet, just trust, reciprocity, and a deep belief that abundance is meant to be shared. They preserve extra not just for themselves, but knowing others might need it. If a family falls ill or loses power, meals arrive without fanfare. This isn't charity, it's community insurance. In a weird winter like 2025, when supply chains wobble and isolation grows, this old way offers real security. You don't need to be Amish to start something similar. Swap jars with a neighbor, share extra firewood, trade eggs for bread. These small acts build resilience far stronger than any stockpile. And the best part? It costs nothing but kindness. In the coldest months, a shared loaf of bread doesn't just fill a stomach, it reminds everyone they're not alone. That's the real secret. Food tastes better when it's given, not just kept. 26. Bones become broth. Broth becomes soup. Soup becomes stew. For the Amish, nothing edible leaves the kitchen, not even bone. After Sunday roast, they toss the carcass into a big pot, cover it with water and let it simmer for hours into rich, healing broth. Once strained, that broth becomes Monday's soup, maybe with leftover potatoes and carrots. By Wednesday, more veggies, beans or grains get stirred in, turning it into a heartier stew. They stretch one meal into 3, even 4 without buying a single extra ingredient. Every scrap has a purpose. Meat scraps flavor beans, vegetable peels deepen stock, and stale bread thickens gravy. This cycle isn't about scarcity, it's about respect. They see food as a gift, so wasting it feels wrong. In winter, when trips to town are rare and pantries must last, this rhythm keeps meals varied and nourished. They store broth in jars in a cold porch or root cellar, ready to revive with a splash of water and heat. In a weird winter like 2025, when inflation bites and shelves thin, this circular cooking turns leftovers into abundance. It's not complicated, just consistent. Use it all, honor it all, and let nothing go to waste. And somehow, that third-day stew always tastes better than the first. 27. Ugly veggie stews. The Amish don't care if a carrot is crooked, a potato is knobby, or a beet is lopsided. If it's good inside, it's going in the pot. They call these ugly veggies, and they're the stars of their winter stews. While grocery stores toss imperfect produce, Amish gardens celebrate it. Those misshapen roots often taste sweeter and store longer, because they're grown slowly in rich soil, not rushed for looks. They chop them all up, peels on, no waste, and simmer them with beans, broth, and a bit of salt pork into a thick, earthy stew that feeds the whole family. No recipe needed, just what's on hand. Kids learn early that flavor doesn't come from perfection, it comes from care. In a weird winter like 2025, when food prices soar and pretty produce costs a premium, choosing ugly veggies saves money and reduces waste. Farmers markets and discount bins often sell them cheap, or you can grow your own without worrying about shape. Toss them in soups, roast them with lard, or mash them into pies. They're just as nutritious, just as delicious. And honestly, a stew made from crooked carrots and bumpy turnips tastes like honesty, humility, and home. The Amish know beauty is on the plate, not in the bin. 28. Meal plan by the moon. The Amish don't just cook by the calendar, they cook by the moon. It's an old habit, passed down through generations, rooted in both practicality and rhythm. During the new moon, when energy feels low, they keep meals light. Soups, porridge, simple bread. As the moon grows fuller, so do their feasts. Hearty roasts, baked beans and pies appear on the table, matching the rising energy of the household and farm work. After the full moon, they ease back into simpler fare, using up leftovers and clearing the pantry before the cycle begins again. They believe digestion and appetite follow natural cycles, and aligning meals with the moon helps the body rest and work in harmony with the seasons. It's not magic, it's mindfulness. In a weird winter like 2025, when days feel chaotic and routines vanish, this gentle rhythm brings calm. You don't need to track phases on an app, just notice the sky. A sliver of moon, soup night, bright full moon, time for that special molasses cake. It costs nothing, adds no stress, and turns everyday eating into something intentional. For the Amish, food isn't just fuel, It's part of the Earth's quiet song. And planning by the moon, that's just listening closely. 29. Cloth napkins. Always. In an Amish home, you'll never see a roll of paper towels on the dinner table. Only soft, folded cloth napkins, often stitched by hand. They're washed, reused, and passed down like quiet heirlooms. Every family member has their own, sometimes marked with a small embroidered initial, so it's clear whose is whose. These napkins aren't just practical, they make even a simple bowl of bean soup feel like a proper meal. They absorb spills better than paper, last for years, and save money every single week. In winter, when trips to town are rare and supplies run low, not having to buy paper products is a real relief. Kids learn early to treat them with care, folding them neatly after meals, and on Sundays or holidays, they bring out the finer ones, white linen with delicate edges for company. In a weird winter like 2025, when budgets are tight and waste feels wasteful, cloth napkins are a small act of dignity and thrift. They remind everyone that eating together is worth honoring, no matter how humble the food. Plus, they add a touch of calm beauty to the table. No crinkling, no trash, just warmth and intention. It's not about being fancy, it's about saying, this moment matters. Say grace before you eat. Before a single bite is taken, the Amish bow their heads and say grace, not as a formality, but as a daily anchor. It's quiet, unhurried, and often spoken from the heart, not recited by rush. They thank God for the food, the hands that grew it, the fire that cooked it, and the family gathered around the table. In a world that rushes through meals, this pause is sacred. It slows everyone down, especially children, and turns dinner into more than just refueling. It becomes connection. They believe food is a gift, not a guarantee, so gratitude isn't optional. Even on the hardest winter days when the wood stove sputters or the pantry feels thin, they still give. In a weird winter like 2025, when anxiety runs high and screens pull us apart, this simple habit brings calm, presence, and perspective. You don't need to be religious to try it. Just a moment of silence, a deep breath, and a quiet thank you for what's on your plate. It costs nothing, takes seconds, and changes everything. Because when you eat with gratitude, even bean soup tastes like abundance. And in the Amish kitchen, that's the final most important secret of all. Look, 2025's winter is predicted to be wild. NOAA's calling for polar vortexes, fuel shortages, and inflation on pantry staples. But here's the good news. You don't need to become Amish overnight. Just borrow their mindset. Stock up on beans and lard now. Try one fermentation jar. Bake one lard pie. These aren't just old-timey tricks. They're practical, affordable, and honestly, delicious. And in a world of 30-minute meals that cost $20, there's something deeply comforting about knowing you can feed your family with flour, fat, and faith. So what's your first move? Are you rendering lard this weekend? Digging a mini root cellar in your basement? Or just trying that eggless chocolate cake? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. If this video gave you even one idea to make winter 2025 less stressful, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm. Subscribe for more no-nonsense food wisdom, and tap the bell so you don't miss our next video on 10 Amish pantry staples under. Stay warm, eat well, and remember, the best recipes aren't on TikTok. They're in Grandma's cellar. See you next time.